There's something about caramel that instantly brings comfort. That deep, buttery sweetness with just a hint of richness that feels both nostalgic and indulgent at the same time. Now imagine taking that smooth caramel flavor and weaving it into a creamy frozen treat that melts slowly on a warm day. That's exactly what we're making today. Welcome back to Cooking with Rod, where we turn simple ingredients into unforgettable recipes. And today we're diving into these Caramel Swirl Popsicles, a perfect balance of creamy vanilla base and ribbons of rich caramel running through every bite. What makes these popsicles really stand out is the texture and flavor contrast. The base is smooth, lightly sweet, and incredibly creamy, thanks to the combination of milk and cream, while the caramel adds those bold buttery swirls that not only look beautiful but give you bursts of flavor throughout. Every popsicle comes out a little different, with its own unique marbled pattern, which makes them just as fun to look at as they are to eat. This recipe is also incredibly approachable. No fancy equipment, no complicated techniques, just a handful of pantry ingredients, a popsicle mold, and a little bit of time in the freezer. Whether you're making these for a summer treat, prepping desserts ahead of time, or just looking for something homemade that feels a little special, this one checks all the boxes. And the best part, they're fully customizable. You can use store-bought caramel for convenience, go all in with homemade caramel for even deeper flavor. You can swirl lightly for a subtle touch or go bold with heavy ribbons throughout. It's entirely up to you. So today we're going to walk through the full process step by step, from building that creamy base, layering in the caramel, creating those signature swirls, all the way through freezing and serving, and storing them so you can always have a batch ready to go. Let's get started and make some Caramel Swirl Popsicles. Start by gathering all your ingredients so everything is ready to go. You'll need whole milk, heavy cream, sugar, vanilla extract, a small pinch of salt, and a good quality caramel sauce. Having everything measured and within reach makes the process smooth and keeps the texture of your mixture constant from start to finish. Pour the whole milk and heavy cream into a mixing bowl. This combination creates the rich, creamy base that gives these popsicles their smooth texture. The balance between milk and cream is important. The milk helps keep it light, while the cream adds that indulgent, velvety finish. Add the sugar along with a small pinch of salt. The sugar sweetens the base, while the salt enhances both the cream and the caramel flavors. Even a small amount of salt helps balance the sweetness and bring out a deeper, more rounded taste. Whisk the mixture until the sugar is fully dissolved and everything is well combined. The goal is a smooth, uniform base with no graininess. Once combined, stir in the vanilla extract, which adds warmth and depth to the flavor. Place your popsicle molds on a stable surface. Make sure it's clean, dry, and ready to fill. Having it set up ahead of time allows you to move quickly once the mixture is ready. Pour the prepared cream mixture into each mold cavity, filling them most of the way but leaving a little space at the top. This gives room for the caramel and prevents overflow when inserting the sticks. Spoon or drizzle the caramel sauce into each mold. The caramel will sink slightly into the cream mixture, creating pockets of rich flavor throughout the popsicle. Using a skewer or knife to gently swirl the caramel through the mixture. Don't overmix. A few light passes will create beautiful ribbons and marbling. Each mold will develop its own unique pattern. Place the wooden sticks into the center of each mold. Make sure they are positioned upright and evenly spaced so they freeze securely in place. Transfer the mold into the freezer and allow the popsicles to freeze completely. This usually takes several hours or overnight. The slow freezing helps maintain a smooth texture and keeps the caramel swirls intact. Once frozen, remove the popsicles from the mold. If needed, briefly run the outside of the mold under warm water to help release them cleanly without damaging the shape. Place the popsicles on a tray or surface for serving. At this stage, you'll clearly see the caramel marbling running through each one, making every popsicle slightly different and visually appealing. For storage, wrap each popsicle individually in parchment paper. This prevents them from sticking together and protects their texture while stored. Place the wrapped popsicles into the freezer-safe container or bag. Store them in the freezer so they're ready anytime you want a quick, homemade frozen treat. Alright, we got some chef notes here. These popsicles are all about balance, texture, and technique, even though the ingredient list is simple. When done right, you get creamy, almost ice cream-like bite with rich ribbons of caramel running through every layer. Not icy, not overly sweet, just smooth and satisfying. Creaminess versus iciness. The biggest difference between a good popsicle and a great one is texture. The combination of whole milk and heavy cream is what gives these popsicles their smooth, creamy consistency. If you reduce the fat too much, the popsicles can become icy instead of silky. If you want them even richer, you can slightly increase the cream and reduce the milk. This creates a more dessert-like, almost frozen custard texture. Sugar matters more than you think. Sugar isn't just for sweetness, it also affects how the popsicles freeze. It helps keep them softer and easier to bite into straight from the freezer. If you reduce the sugar too much, the popsicles may freeze too hard. If you want to adjust sweetness, do it slightly and taste the base before freezing. Caramel choice and flavor control. You can use the either store-bought or homemade caramel, but they will give slightly different results. Store-bought caramel is smoother, more consistent, and slightly sweeter. Homemade caramel has a deeper flavor, more complexity, slightly more control over salt and richness. For a more elevated version, consider using salted caramel. It adds contrast and keeps the sweetness from becoming overwhelming. Swirl technique is key. The swirl step where the visual and flavor magic happens. The goal is to create ribbons, not fully mix the caramel in. A few gentle passes with a skewer or knife is all you need. Over swirling will blend everything together and you'll lose those beautiful caramel streaks. Layering options. Here's an advanced tip. For a more defined swirl pattern, you can layer, pour a little cream base, add caramel, add more cream, add another drizzle of caramel, then lightly swirl. This creates distinct caramel pockets instead of a uniform swirl. Stick placement matters. Make sure the sticks are centered and stable. If they lean or shift, the popsicles can freeze unevenly or be harder to remove later. If your mold doesn't hold sticks in place, let the mixture freeze about 30 to 45 minutes, then insert the sticks once slightly set. Freeze time and texture. Slow, undisturbed freezing gives the best results. Avoid opening the freezer repeatedly for the first few hours. For best texture, freeze at least 6 to 8 hours or overnight. Fully frozen popsicles release more cleanly and hold their shape better. Easy release trick. If the popsicles don't release easily, don't force them. Instead, run the mold under warm water for a few seconds or let it sit at room temperature briefly. This loosens the edges around without melting the entire popsicle. Storage tips. Wrap each popsicle individually in parchment. Prevents freezer burn, sticking together, loss of texture. Store in an airtight container to keep flavors fresh. This will keep well for 2 to 3 weeks, though they're best enjoyed sooner. Flavor variations. Once you master the base, you can easily customize salted caramel, add flaky salt or use salted caramel. Coffee caramel, add a spoon of espresso powder to the base. Chocolate caramel, drizzle melted chocolate along with caramel. Vanilla bean, use real vanilla bean for a more premium flavor. Coffee crunch, add small toffee bits for texture. Serving upgrade, drizzle extra caramel over the finished popsicles. Sprinkle a pinch of flaky salt. Serve slightly softened for a creamier bite. Final thought, these popsicles are a perfect example of how simple ingredients plus good technique equal premium results. The contrast between the creamy base and the rich caramel swirls create a dessert that feels both homemade and indulgent. Something you want to keep stocked in your freezer all summer long. And just like that, you've got a batch of Caramel Swirl Popsicles ready to go. Creamy, smooth, and packed with those rich ribbons of caramel in every single bite. This is one of those recipes that really shows how a few simple ingredients can turn into something that feels completely elevated. The combination of that velvety base and the deep buttery caramel creates a dessert that's not just refreshing, but genuinely satisfying. It's the kind of treat you pull out of the freezer and immediately feel like you've made something special. What I really love about these recipes is how customizable they are. You can keep them classic like we did today, or take it further, add a touch of salt for a sweet salty contrast, mix in chocolate or even layer in different flavors to create your own signature version. Once you get the technique down, this becomes a recipe you can come back to again and again. They're perfect for summer days, great to have on hand for guests, and honestly, just a solid go-to when you want something homemade that doesn't require a lot of effort but still delivers big on flavor. If you made these, I'd love to hear how they turned out for you. Did you go classic caramel or did you put your own spin on it? Drop it in the comments. I always enjoy seeing how you take these recipes and make them your own. And if you're enjoying these kind of recipes, simple, reliable, and packed with flavor, make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss what's coming next. There's always something new hitting the kitchen, and plenty more frozen treats, desserts, and everyday favorites on the way. Thanks for hanging out with me today, and as always, keep cooking, keep creating, and I'll see you in the next one.